Hot alien babes? Hot alien dudes? One of the greatest final levels of all time? Oh, I love Mass Effect 2. The Mass Effect trilogy is one of gaming's boldest experiments, a series that lets the player create their own interpretation of a hero named Commander Shepard, and then allows them to keep that same character over the course of 3 separate games. It's been several years now since the trilogy ended, and whenever people tend to reminisce, they either think solely of the crazy exploration of the original title, or the controversial ending of the third. But in a series dedicated to making tough choices, it's actually the middle installment that manages to fully realize this concept. Mass Effect 2 is a stunning example of what happens when you give gamers everything and then make them risk it all. You see, the original Mass Effect was a refreshing take on the formula that made Knights of the Old Republic such a huge success. With their own universe and lore this time around, BioWare was able to slowly introduce the player into a story that made them feel in complete control of their destiny. You were Commander Shepard, leader of your very own starship and the galaxy's only hope against the Reapers. The plot was compelling and epic, but was made personal by the connections you made with your crew. Each member of your team had a unique backstory and certain quirks that made you either love them or hate them. As the game progressed and you completed more missions together, you would learn more about your teammates and make choices that could affect entire planets. Sure, you may not have ever seen the effects of these planetary choices play out in this game, and there were really only 2 occasions with the potential for a squad mate to die, but you still felt like you were forging your own destiny. By the end of Mass Effect 1, you felt like a galaxy-saving badass. And then Mass Effect 2 opened by blowing up your ship. And killing you in the first 5 minutes of the game. Right away, Mass Effect 2 is about consequences. Remember all those people you ticked off in the first game? Well, now they want your head. After just a few tutorial missions, the player finds themselves without almost any of their original crew, working for one of the secondary villains of the first game. And then, for the first time, you hear the words that will define this second installment: Suicide Mission. You see, Mass Effect 2's main plot is all about dealing with the fallout of your actions in the original title. Since you foiled their original plan, the Reapers are now relying on a species called the Collectors to get revenge on all of humanity. And the only way to stop them is to go through a super ominous space portal that no one has ever returned from and pull off the impossible. Throughout the entire game, characters constantly remind you that this final mission to stop the Collectors will be the most difficult battle of your career, and that your chances of survival are nearly 0. Thus, the majority of the game is spent prepping you for this one mission that you can technically attempt as soon as you've finished a few essential levels. But since the stakes are so much higher than before, you'll want as much help as possible before attempting that. Not only are you recruiting teammates both old and new to improve your chances, but you're given major decisions that will affect their loyalty in that final suicide run. The game constantly tells you, hey, going through the Omega-4 relay is important, don't screw this up, and then gives you 2 entire games worth of baggage to deal with and figure out what will be important in the fight to come. Now, after building your team, ensuring as many loyalties as you can, and making the terrible choice of how quickly to rescue your captured crew members, we get to that fabled suicide mission. Let's break down just what makes this segment so genius, shall we? The mission starts with an insane cutscene that shows the Normandy going through the relay and immediately having to deal with enemy ships. Depending on how well you upgraded your armor and weapons, this could go well or not so well. But no matter what, the way the scene is shot is going to keep you on your toes and constantly doubting whether you made the right choices. If you're lucky and invested your upgrades right, everyone will make it to the collector station in one piece. But here's where the fun begins. The player now has to make decisions on who should do what as you make your way through the station. Which tech specialist do you put at risk in the ventilation shafts? Which biotic do you choose to make the trek through the darkness with? No matter who you choose, the game constantly has you on edge about whether or not they'll make it. Meanwhile, all you can hear from your other squad mates is the sound of battle cries over the radio, leaving you wondering whether they'll all survive without you. That may not seem like all that much, but after spending 2 entire games building up trust with certain characters, it's absolutely astounding how attached you can get to a virtual partner. On top of that, to make these stressful choices even worse, someone is actively defying you in a great combination of gameplay and lore. Harbinger, the leader of the Reapers, is capable of possessing collector troops on the battlefield, powering them up and directly taunting the player. Being on a time limit to rescue your tech specialist is already daunting enough without an enemy in your way suddenly getting twice as much health, firepower, and sass. The game treats Harbinger like a sadistic dungeon master, a dark force manipulating the rules solely to interfere with your well-laid plans and attempting to kill off your cast of characters. Over the course of a single level, the game is able to make you feel fear, panic, stress, and even hatred at the constantly mocking voice of Harbinger. Why is that? Well, it's because there's so much on the line. If you constantly tell a player that they're not going to finish this final mission without losing some squad mates, the player is going to be determined to prove you wrong. In reality, once you know the patterns, it's actually quite easy to make it through the collector base without losing anyone. But because of the investment of 2 games worth of choices and the constant twists that this station throws at you, the entire level winds up being an emotional roller coaster. By the time you face off against an actual Reaper, something that not even the final battle of the first game attempted, you've been conditioned to feel like it's all or nothing, and that maybe the impossible actually can be done. You know, that's what makes Mass Effect so special. No matter how much we may know now about how certain choices play out, we all had those first moments with the game when we knew nothing. The first time a character made us laugh, the first time we realized that someone would have to die. And that experience of fighting for the lives of your squad mates and how it was able to feel meaningful, not just on a level of story, but as an actual gameplay mechanic as you fought against the Dungeon Master Harbinger, it's simply unforgettable. We all have our stories of how well we did when we first went through the Omega 4 relay on that suicide mission. And to have made that journey feel personal, feel special, feel like we've achieved the impossible by the end of the game, well, I'd have to say that's nothing less than really freaking clever. If you like this video, why not consider liking, commenting, and subscribing? Every little bit helps. If you want more Mass Effect info, why not check out the new episode of Did You Know Gaming that I voiced about the series? And if you want more game design goodness and groan-worthy parodies, I've got tons of that stuff on my own channel. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter if you want more updates, and I'll see you next time.